Hello everybody, this is a grumpy old guy gaming, here with more Magic the Gathering coverage. Today I'm playing a modded version of an old Magic the Gathering game. This is ManaLink. I believe it's 3.0. From what I read, it was updated around 2016. This is a mod of the just card play portion of the old Shandalar game. The old CD-ROM game that was around in the 90s. And this is a deck that is 99% true to what I've built in paper. As I do with Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't really want to play anything and show it on the channel unless I am currently building it in paper or unless I currently own it in paper. So I'm not going to build any wild out there decks because I'm cheap. This is one of the more extravagant decks that I built cost-wise. And even then it earned the moniker of the Affordable Wonder. That was a running joke we had at the card shop I used to play at because we all just sort of sat down and said, what could we do if we didn't have a budget, not using Power 9 or anything, and we all came up with insanely cool but expensive decks. This is an insanely cool deck that clocked in well under what they had, and over the years pieces came together from later sets that really made this something kind of viable and fun. Again, this is a deck I own with a couple minor exceptions. I'll get those out of the way right now. Brain Geyser is a sorcery for 2 blue and X that lets target player draw X cards. I actually run Mind Spring, which is the exact same spell, 2 blue and X sorcery, target player draws X cards. But Mind Spring isn't in here. Brain Geyser is because they are effectively the same spell with different names. So Brain Geyser is in. Also, this mod was out before Battle Bond was a thing. And I do have a one-off of Peer and Toothy, which is a 2-card partner set out of the Battle Bond set that was a kid and his imaginary friend, who was this big, giant monster with 1,000 teeth. They played nicely off drawing cards to get counters and using the counters to draw cards when Toothy left play. Plus they were a fun inclusion, so I threw them in here. Obviously they're not in this version since the cards are not attainable, so I have extra copies of Merfolk Looter and Wistful Selkie that I normally run 3 of. I now have 4 of in here. The deck itself is built on a pretty simple premise. That premise being show and tell allows you to do some pretty broken things. On the surface, it's a potentially powerful card for everybody, for 3 mana, 1 blue specifically, and 2 mana of any color, really. Allows each player to put an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land from their hand into play. A lot of people look at that and they get thrilled because they'll draw a creature that they know they're not going to be able to cast for 4 or 5 turns, or maybe they're banking on drawing into a specific color of mana and they get a free creature. What we're hoping to drop is Omniscience, which is a very hefty spell. That is 3 specific blue mana and 7 others for a total of 10 mana to cast this outright. But it's an enchantment, so it stays on the field, and it has a static effect that allows you personally to cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. Which means that technically any other spell we play for the rest of the game could very well be free. There are obvious implications to the advantages of that, but it gets slightly more broken if you go 1 card lower on the list and you see Enter the Infinite, which is the most expensive spell in this deck, and honestly the most expensive spell I've ever hardcast at 12 mana. What Enter the Infinite does is it allows you to draw cards equal to the number of cards in your library, so basically pick up your whole deck, add it to your hand, and then take 1 card from your hand, put it back on top of your library. So your deck size becomes 1, but you have a giant bundle of cards to play for the rest of the turn. and you can play them all for free. This normally sounds like a fantastic way to win a game, but Magic has a mechanic that makes winning via creature damage in such a manner really tight as far as timing windows go. Because if you draw more cards than you have, you automatically lose the game, and creatures typically can't attack the turn they come in. They have a thing called Summoning Sickness, where they have to wait around through an upkeep step before they could use abilities that use the tap symbol or attack. So instead of relying on creature damage, come all the way to the bottom here, and Kaladesh gave us a wonderful win condition in the artifact Aetherflux Reservoir. Has two abilities. The first says whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. So, with Omniscience bringing out Enter the Infinite, we'll have all 4 reservoirs in our hand in an ideal situation and be able to chuck those out in successive order. And then they'll gain us tons and tons of life, which pays beautifully into our second ability. Pay 50 life, Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to any target. That is any creature, any planeswalker, more specifically any player. You're typically aiming that right at your opponent, and it normally doesn't take more than 1 because you start a game of Magic the Gathering with 20 life, and you're very seldom going to see more than that. Due to the number of plays we can make for free that won't get us killed, turns out there's one in here due to a bug in the way the game makes its rulings that will kill us outright, and I've triggered it accidentally a couple times now. You can actually gain heaps of life with this and do it several times over to the same opponent if need be, or if you're playing in a chaos game, do it to several other opponents. Rest of the deck is basically a card engine. By that I mean just about everything is trying to gain you card advantage. Terramorphic Expanse is going to weed out basic lands from your deck, making your probability of drawing non-land cards that much higher. Wistful Selkie is going to draw you a card when it comes into play, as is Karametra's Favor. That has the added bonus of turning a creature you enchant into something that could produce a mana of any color. Birds of Paradise could do that on its own and can be cast on the first turn, which accelerates our whole win condition by a turn if we see a forest of Birds of Paradise and Show and Tell. Then we're just 1 land off casting Show and Tell on the second turn. Brain Geyser allows you to draw cards. Ponder allows you to rearrange the top 3, potentially shuffle your deck if you're not getting anywhere, and draw cards. Merfolk Looter allows you to draw a card and then discard. So all of this is just giving you more and more chances to draw into the combo. And then we have Time Reversal in as a reset button as a 2-off. For 5 mana, it allows each player to shuffle their hand and graveyard into their library and then draw 7 cards, then exile Time Reversal. Ideally, the deck fires off rather quickly. You pretty much know that if you don't have the combo, you're in some sort of trouble because none of these creatures are going to do much but stop an attacker once. That's about all the overview I could give it. It's nothing groundbreaking or super unique, but it's something fun, and it's something I built, and it can really fire off in a fun fashion if the combo hits. That's enough of a preview. Let's go ahead in and pick the Duel option. Okay, so back here at the Duel options screen, starting at the top here, we've got a solo duel, a gauntlet where you just keep playing game after game until you eventually lose, a sealed deck, and my wife actually had a copy of this CD-ROM back when we were dating of the original game, and I fell in love with the sealed deck. I loved playing sealed deck Magic. Limited events like that were absolutely my thing. And what the sealed deck is, you get a certain amount of cards in here. It's like a tournament pack and 2 boosters, though I think you could sort of change it up in the options in that. and you just crack the packs and build a little deck out of what you draw. There's even a dual opponent option, but I don't think that would be viable these days. I don't know what kind of tech shenanigans you would have to play to get PvP working on this in, 2021? But if it is possible, that's kind of cool too. Now, when it comes to decks, I should point out that you don't actually have to load your decks in. That's something I enjoy doing. Taking a look here, there are so many decks already in this. There's gotta be hundreds. I mean, I'm scrolling my mouse like crazy, and we just got into the C's. And it's everything, all deck types, all color combinations, old decks, new decks, things from the beginning with absolutely broken stuff and Power 9 cards, and things that were probably relatively new and current as of the modding of this game. So I typically just leave it to random deck and take my chances. You have more game options down here with none, Momir Basic, Draft, or Testing. You also have match parameters if you wanted to anti-cards at the beginning. It's not going to actually yank them out of your deck because, again, there's no way to keep track of that in this game. But if you wanted to see the anti-screen pop up, it would be there. And you could go ahead and change your series type, whether you want it to be a one-off, all the way up to a best of 5. I prefer to stay right in the middle, best of 3. It's typically what you would play in a tournament setting, and it's really probably the most fair way to gauge a match. You could take a bad beat. Taking 2 out of 3 bad beats may be more indicative of a larger issue. More duel options over here, not going to get into them. You could also save a match midway through and load it up later. We're just going to start fresh and see what we get. We are playing Valdar, playing with 1979 Alpha 30. That scares me, especially when I look at AWW and think it means all white weenies. We win the coin toss. There's also an option for an animated coin toss. I turned that off. We're going to play first here. Going to draw out our hands, see what we have here. If we wanted, we can mulligan, drop a card, and draw a new hand, which would only, again, give us 6 cards to start. But I don't really hate what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a Woodland Stream, 3 other lands, a Show and Tell, Birds of Paradise, and a Brain Geyser. So we've actually got a pretty decent start to mana acceleration and a good card draw spell. All white weenies is clearly not what we're playing, as there's a big green mana symbol up on the opposing player's portrait there. But we're going to go ahead and start the duel and see what we get. First thing we want to do, put that forest into play and cast Birds of Paradise, so we've got 2 mana outright. Means if we draw an Omniscience next turn, we could technically get it out with Show and Tell. There's just not much of a reason to. They drop a Tundra, which is a land that will tap for either blue or white mana and counts as both a plains and an island. Nothing to play off of that, though, so I'm happy with that. Nothing going there. Let's go ahead and drop the Terramorphic Expanse and get rid of that for an island, which pulls that island out of our deck and just gets us 1 card closer, I guess. Nothing else going on, so we'll pass the turn. The opponent seems to be stuck. Did not draw a second land, so they are going to end the turn and discard a Restore. Put target land card from the graveyard onto the field under your control. Also a frightening spell to see. Drop a Woodland Stream. Go ahead and tighten up our lands a little. And it's kind of pointless, but we get a free card draw out of it. We'll cast Karametra's Favor on our Birds of Paradise. They could already tap for 1 mana of any color, and now they really can tap for 1 mana of any color. Yeah, what the heck. We'll cast the Birds of Paradise using a Birds of Paradise. So we've got 5 mana at our disposal for next turn with another land coming in. So we're looking at 6 mana already. Feel good about that. Also feel good about our opponent discarding the Fireball. Draw another Forest. So we could bring Geyser for 4, which will fill our hand back up. I feel that's our best call. Let's go ahead and cast that. You can see our X value is 4. That taps us all out, and we're good with that. We could choose a player. We're going to choose ourselves, which is that really accurate portrait of ourselves on the bottom. That is a grumpy old guy doing some gaming, and not Valdar at the top. So we've hit our combo. Next turn we should be able to fire off. Nothing out of the opponent's deck, and Valdar once again has to discard, and it's a Mahamoti Djinn. So we're up against a real old school power deck there. And we just happen to be not drawing any cards. Okay, let's get this show on the road. Forest in play. Going to show and tell. Drop an Omniscience on the field. They apparently have no permanents to put into play at this point with a handful of 7 cards. Otherwise they would have been able to put an artifact, land, enchantment, or creature in. We're then going to trigger Omniscience's ability to play Enter the Infinite, which is going to draw out the remainder of our deck. You can see our hand size right now at 47. We'll put a Terramorphic Expanse back as our library, so our deck size is 1 and our hand size is 46. We have plenty of mana still available, but we could also cast everything for free simply by choosing the Omniscience ability. And we're going to grab our Aetherflux Reservoirs. Casting the Reservoir. Arranging the cards. And let's do that 3 more times. You'll see our life start ticking up there. That was the 4th spell, I guess, we had cast. So we gained 3 life for the previous spells. And we could still do this 2 more times. There is Reservoir number 3. That's going to trigger both of our current reservoirs for 4 apiece. And 4th verse, same as the first 3, only now we're getting 3 checks of 5. Which almost puts us at what we would need to end this game already. Since it doesn't hurt us to have multiples of Omniscience out, that's where we're going next. And you can see the life is just getting way out of hand here, which is kind of how we like it. Already up around 100 life. And I don't want to belabor this too much. So we'll go ahead and activate the ability of Aetherflux Reservoir and deal 50 damage to Valdar. We go down to 80. Valdar is at a cool -30, and when we pass the phase, victory chimes go off and we've won game 1. Shows what our next draw would be, as well as Valdar's next draw. Let's see, he had a Time Twister, which works like our Time Reversal, only cheaper, because that's the original Time Twister, one of the Power 9. And we had that Terramorphic Expanse, which was the only card left in our deck. Crazy, crazy things happening there, and you could actually see the counter of spells we'd cast that turn already. That's kind of neat. Let's go ahead and continue the match to round 2. Valdar is going to draw first this time. Not nearly as potent a hand, but it still has the potential to draw into things, and that's what we're looking for. So we'll go ahead and start the duel. Play an island, cast Ponder. Omniscience right away. Doesn't really help us though. So what we're going to do is shuffle the cards up. And we draw and enter the infinite. Okay. Not a bad first turn. They play an Underground Sea and a Mox Pearl, which is a free artifact that gives them a second mana right away. And they get an extra turn from Time Walk. Don't make much of it though. They do drop a tropical island, so they've got 3 mana. We'll play a forest, and really nothing else. We could technically bring Geyser for 0, but what's the point? Second to enter the infinite, not really inspiring much for me. Let's go ahead and cast Wistful Selkie. They're going to destroy it. We'll hit our graveyard order. Wistful Selkie will hit the graveyard. We should have still got a card draw off of that. That is another little hiccup in this system's rules engine that I've noticed. But hey, what can you do? Wheel of Fortune. Each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. So half of our Enter the Infinites are now gone. And they're going to play... No, that was a whole playset of Restore. I guess it could have been worse. We did hit a Show and Tell and another Enter the Infinite, so all we need is an Omniscience. Gonna tap their Scrubland and Soul Ring, and yeah, just Scrubland for Soul Ring, so they still have 3 mana available. Let's go ahead and tighten up on their stuff. Interesting. So let's drop a forest. Get a Birds of Paradise out. Get ourselves back in the land race here. And a Wistful Selkie. Get us that extra card draw. Range our cards, condense things down there, and just get rolling. One thing that has been amazing is there we go, Royal Assassin. I was wondering if we were actually going to see a creature out of him, honestly. That Royal Assassin is going to be a bit of a problem for us, but you have what you have. Let's go ahead and use the Terramorphic. Grab ourselves play a Merfolk Leader. Don't think we're going to be able to bait them into blocking here, but we'll have a Wistful Selkie nonetheless. I'll activate the Royal Assassin to kill the Selkie. Saw that coming. Range the cards. Let's tap the Merfolk Looter. No Omniscience. Suppose we'll discard the Woodland Stream. Play a Forest. Play the Merfolk Looter. See, I want to be careful with the Aetherflux Reservoir in case they have Disenchants. As I kind of feel they will. Just gonna keep the royal ass busy here. Draw into another Birds of Paradise. Merfolk Looter for the extra draw. Show and Tell, Enter the Infinite. Still nothing. Discard the Woodland Stream. I guess no time like the present. Let's go ahead, Aetherflux Reservoir. Birds of Paradise to gain that life. And a forest just for the heck of it. Losing our Merfolk Looter after this anyway. Oh no. Activating. Okay. Yeah, they were activating it, just for some reason caught the little artifact of the Birds of Paradise there. That was a little strange. Draw a Ponder. We are okay with a Ponder. Brain Geyser, Karametra's Favor, and a Woodland Stream. I think we will hold on to that, actually. Let's go ahead and pass on the shuffle. Let's cast ourselves a big, meaty 6-card Brain Geyser. Literally gives us everything but the helpful thing. But again, you'll have this from time to time. We already know that one of those Birds of Paradise is as good as dead, so getting a land out there is very much in our favor. Puts us back at 7 and ends the turn. Gonna play Disenchant, getting rid of the Reservoir. That's okay. We still have ways to get through. Woodland Stream. Play the Wistful Selkie. Tapping as much brain as possible. Draw a card. That card is still non-omniscience. Got plenty of mana available. Let's go ahead and ponder. There's omniscience. That's what we needed. Done and done. Gonna pass on the shuffle. Get our omniscience, and here we go. Show and tell. Dropping omniscience. Omniscience. Casting Enter the Infinite. Only 27 cards left this time, folks. Terramorphic Expanse. And now it's time to go a little bit crazy if we can. Aether Flux Res. We're not going to hit as lofty a height as last time. We should still be able to hit lethal damage this turn. Yeah, you saw we already got 5 points. The advantage of desperation casting, folks. Reservoir 3. Now we'll go after our remaining omniscience. Gets us overall 50. And just for the heck of it, we'll see just how many of these we can get going. Another omniscience there. Up over 100. Let's go ahead and cast a Merfolk Looter. And this is absolutely my favorite part of this deck, where you could just sit here and do things for free because you can. Now we're up over 170 life, and still have 2 Birds of Paradise that we could safely play. That is where we will mercifully stop this, at 249 life. Now the only problem is we have to drag these omniscience over here to actually get to an Aether Flux Reservoir. So we'll go ahead and click it. Click Valdar, who's going to give us the Evil Tongue out of nowhere. He's going to fast effect disenchant the Aether Flux Reservoir, but the damage has already been done. we may not feel pleasant at 199, but he's definitely done at negative 32. And there you go, we won our best of 3, 2, 0, and 0. Nice little breakdown of that, and hopefully you enjoyed this little playthrough of a Magic the Gathering deck that I was somewhat proud of building back in the day when I built it. This has been a Grumpy Old Guy Gaming, hoping you are well wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you around.